Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Mercuri. I am with Mancuso Show Management, and today I'm presenting my interview with Kathleen Decker of the Colonial Piecemakers Quilt Guild. Colonial Piecemakers is based in Williamsburg, Virginia, where many of you know that the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival used to be located so many years ago. I had a great talk with Kathleen about what the Guild's activities were, and especially about the exhibit that they have in our festival right now titled This Too TWO shall pass. You can see the Colonial Peacemakers Quilt Guild's exhibit along with many other quilt exhibits and the competition quilts at our festival website, which is www.onlinequiltfestival.com. And I hope you enjoy this interview. Hi, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I am great, and I'm very excited about the upcoming virtual Mancuso show.
Yes, we are excited to be at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival here. Where are you calling from today or Zooming from today?
I am Zooming from Williamsburg, Virginia, which is the headquarters for the Colonial Piecemakers Quilt Guild.
That is awesome, which you probably know is the former venue for our Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival, now is Hampton, but we all finally remember the days of the quilt show being spread out over 4 hotels in Williamsburg. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about the Colonial Peacemakers Quilt Guild?
So we are a nonprofit social group, not a corporation, and we're centered on the common interests of quilting and quilting education, et cetera. And we have over 226 members. And during normal times, about 120 of those actually make meetings. So we have to choose big venues. And we've been having 50 to 70 people join us for Zoom meetings during the infamous pandemic.
That's amazing. That's a great number of members. That's a lot of quilters out there. You say that Virginia area is a big quilt area.
It is, of course, and actually north of here and southwest of here, there are many quilting traditions. North of here is where the Virginia Quilt Museum is in Harrisonburg, and of course that is Mennonite and Amish country. And southwest, you get into the mountain folks. So
would you say that you have like a big range of quilt artists in the guild, or do they mostly lean towards the traditional?
No, we actually have a number of bees. The term quilting bee has not gone away. We have at least 10 separate bees, and we have SAQA, which is the Studio Art Quilters Association. We have a very active SAQA group locally here on the peninsula, not just Williamsburg, but from Richmond all the way down to Chesapeake, and that has 30 members, about 15 of whom are also members of CPQG. So we have some fantastic art quilters in our guild. We also have quilters that specialize in different kinds of things, and we have a number of professional long armors. I think we probably have at least 20 people, all women, who are professional long armors.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so how long has Colonial Peacemakers Quilt Guild been here?
Well, we've been in existence since the 1970s, and it's a little difficult to pin down the precise date because in the early years, they were not so much into the paperwork. But we have exhibits as early as the 1980s, and newspaper articles and a newsletter started in about the mid 1980s. And so I've been able to pull up some back issues and then photos from newspaper articles about the Colonial Peacemakers Quilt Guild from the 70s and 80s onward.
What kind of activities does the Guild do other than meet about the quilting?
So our official mission statement is that the Guild shall preserve and promote the art of quilting, education, and study of the art of quilting, that we promote companionship, hence the sociability, amongst fellow quilters, and contribute to the community through educational and charitable offerings. And we, ever since the inception of CPQG, we've done a tremendous amount of charity work. In the slides that may be going behind me, there are some pictures of early charity gatherings where women got together and made quilts for charity. We've continued that tradition, and Beth Filko, who is our current chair for the charity, has spearheaded an effort by many, many of our members to create over 150 quilts a year, even during the pandemic, and delivered them in plastic bags to some of our charitable organizations. And I'm not going to name them because there's so many, but there are at least 15 or 20 organizations around Williamsburg that have benefited from our charity quilts.
That's really amazing, and I'm sure that makes you and your members feel, like you're giving back a little bit, even while it's, doing your artwork. So that's really nice.
Right.
So you are the current president of the Guild. In that role, what is your daily, your monthly job there?
Well, I will tell you that a big part of my monthly job is assembling PowerPoints and running Zoom meetings. And we have board meetings, which also occur by Zoom. And so I chair the board meetings. And really, in this year of COVID, since my tenure started in June of 2020, which was, we actually had two meetings from the prior president, Dawn Brotherton, which she ran by Zoom. And then starting in June, when I took over, all of our meetings have occurred by Zoom. We have not been able to have any in-person meetings, although we've actually managed to have several very successful white elephant fabric sales, which were held in the parking lot, of course, masked and gloved in the fall before the weather got bad. So I, basically I do whatever I can't get anyone else on the board to do.
Well, that's good. That must mean you're a good delegator then.
Yeah.
Well, so how can quilt artists join the Colonial Peacemakers Quilt Guild?
Well, it's, in one sense, it's particularly easy right now because the meetings are virtual. So our website is www.colonialpeacemakers.com, all run together. We have monthly meetings, and as I said, they're Zoom meetings. And I will tell you that we do have an approximate forecasted date to start in-person meetings again. Based on Virginia's current rate of vaccination, we think we may begin a combination of live meetings and virtual meetings by late summer, early fall. And we will still continue to tape the live meetings so that people who either aren't comfortable or can't make them can see them. We have an annual retreat in addition to our monthly meeting. We have monthly workshops, which are typically held the day before, and those range from anywhere from 4 hours to 8 hours. And those are, again, right now occurring via Zoom. And we also have sew days. And in the past, of course, pre-COVID, we had many sew days, at least one or twice a month for charity, and a couple of sew days just for fun. Again, Beth Filko, who is our charity chair, has managed to get 1 or 2 people over to her house with social distancing. She has continued to do a little bit of face-to-face work, but in general, she's done what we all have done, which is we've geographically distributed the charity work so that some of it occurs at point A, some of it occurs at point B, and then she runs it back and forth and delivers it.
Oh, that's really great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I know that the Colonial Peacemakers Quilt Guild has participated in the Mancuso. Hi, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I am great, and I'm
Hi, we're
very
just having a
excited
few
about the
technical difficulties. If you want to
upcoming
just hold
virtual
on 1 second,
Mancuso
we'll get back
show.
to the video. Yes, we are excited to be at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival here. Where are you calling from today, or Zooming from today? Enter. But
Well,
in the meeting, buddy from California in a class.
But so one thought was that I didn't want to do another fall, winter kind of theme, but I really wanted to do a bunch of embroidery and also bring the summer in early because we could use some summer. And so Blue Skies, which I didn't know that was going to be something you chose. It's on the wall behind me. Blue Skies involves a lot of embroidery and then specialized quilting stitches, which are all about sea life. And it makes me happy. It makes me feel like I'm at the beach, even when I'm not at the beach.
Well, it definitely makes me happy, and I would love to be at the beach right now for sure. Would you say that you lean towards embroidery in your quilts? Is that something that you focus on?
Well, I like to call myself a dilettante. So I do embroidery. It's all machine embroidery. My hands don't really support doing a lot of hand work. But I like to do applique, and I actually belong to SAQA, and I have art quilts in the Mancuso show as well, along with my colleagues. And I would say that I started with traditional quilting, and then I've evolved to get more and more into the art side of quilting. I also run a group called Peninsula Patriots here in Williamsburg, and that's a particular passion. And we've made hundreds of quilts and distributed them to veterans. So my stash, as we quilters call it, is full of patriotic prints and fabrics as well. So really, it's hard to pin me down to a specific category. I just love it all.
That's amazing. So it's Peninsula Patriots, and you donate the quilts to former veterans. That's a really special thing.
Well, we don't like to use the word donate. We like to use the word award. That's all right. But it's important for people listening to understand they have earned these quilts through their military service. And we're very proud and honored to be able to award them quilts to warm and comfort them. And we've done that both through Quilts of Valor. We're a local group with Quilts of Valor, and some of our quilts are just called Patriot quilts and come directly from the group as well.
Well, thank you for clarifying. I agree. Certainly, any member of service do deserve an award, and why not a special, keepsake, quilt. So that's very cool. What do you think is the importance of keeping the art of quilting in today's world?
Well, as we talked about Diana before the interview started, I'm a retired psychiatrist, and quilting serves many purposes. They warm and comfort people. So there's not only a physical aspect in terms of warmth and even visual aspect in terms of pleasing someone, but very much they can serve as a physical and an emotional comfort to people. And they also can convey that the quilter is thinking of the recipient. All of the quilters in my guild, including myself, when we make wedding quilts or baby quilts, we are constantly designing it, thinking about the individual who's going to get it, thinking good thoughts. Some of us pray over the quilts while we're making them, and hoping that the quilt is going to both make someone happy and or heal them if they are injured. For example, the Peninsula Patriots in our Quilts of Valor, we definitely are trying to heal veterans who may have had trauma during war. also the social aspect of quilting, and I don't just mean the talking aspect, but the societal aspect, is that quilting has been around since ancient Egyptian times. It was used as a form of padding armor in the Crusades. Then it became more of a decorative bed covering and wall covering art. And so we're keeping alive a tradition that goes thousands of years back at this point. And I think it's important to maintain that fabric type of tradition, sorry.
I do. I agree. I think that, specifically, maybe not going back almost to the Crusade times, but even back to, the early 1900s, when sewing was necessity, versus, pleasure, is that, having, the younger generations kind of understanding what the importance is of sewing and quilting and the textile arts, and putting that into our life right now and keeping it in our lives. So I completely agree, but that's some great information. I did not know that quilts were used for to pad armor. That's a great, a great fact. I never heard that.
Yeah, it kept the Crusaders warm when they were going over the mountains on the way to the Crusades. But also, if an arrow or a spear penetrated your armor, it provided one more last layer of protection.
Oh, that's really. Do you study a lot of the history of quilting, or is that just something you picked up?
I study some of it. I as if I didn't belong to enough things, I'm a member of the American Quilt Study Group now, and they pretty much everyone in that group knows more than I do about antique quilts. So I'm continually learning new facts.
But that's really great. And I mean, I love knowing like history of, things like that. And I'm sure that it's fascinating to learn just how important, quilting was back then.
Yep.
For sure. So what is the quilting tool that you can't live without?
I find that a really hard question. And of course, my first thought was, well, of course, the sewing machine. I'm not from the 1700s. If I had to sew quilts by hand, I just can't imagine doing it. Small pieces, yes. Binding, yes. Maybe some specific things, but of course, the sewing machine. But aside from the sewing machine, which I think, we pretty much take for granted in this age, I thought about it for a while and I decided it's probably a 36-inch ruler, which has both inches and metric so that I can, including and especially, of course, the quarter inch, because even though quilts are aesthetically pleasing, like, the blue skies behind me, there's quite a lot of math. And if you want your points to match up, you have to do some precise measurements. So I'd say having at least one ruler would be extremely important to me.
That's that's great. And I bet a lot of watchers out there are agreeing with you and nodding their heads that yes, because to have to do the math in your head, that would be horrible. And the ruler can definitely help with that.
I think most of my friends have maybe 20 rulers.
Yeah, a collection of rulers for sure. Well, before we sign off here, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the Colonial Piecemakers Quilt Guild, maybe what's coming up for the future?
Well, I just wanted to reinforce that I'm extremely proud of all of our members who have made charity offerings and the fact that they've done that. And they didn't just pull in their horns like snails during COVID-19. They got busy and did as much or more charity work than ever. I also want to say how proud Melissa and I both are of their offerings for this year's Mancuso. We have a record number of entries, and I think it's been really fun for people, and there's a great diversity of quilts. I wanted to just say, you asked me a question that I wanted to answer on paper. Do I have a favorite memory from attending the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival? And I wanted to say I have two. The first one was my first Mancuso Mid-Atlantic Festival several years ago. I just could not believe the diversity and the tremendous amount of quilts there. There were a lot of people, but more importantly, it was just amazing to look at all the different interpretations of what quilting is, the different sizes, the different styles. And then the second image I have of Mancuso is that I'm talking to you on my laptop, which is sitting on a portion of my sewing cabinet. And I found a beautiful solid wood sewing cabinet at a Mancuso quilt festival. And I probably would never have found it or trusted in its makers if I hadn't seen a demo on the floor. So I think a lot of my friends and I, we were talking about this just yesterday, are also looking forward to next year when we get back to in person, because we do enjoy seeing the vendors' merchandise in person, and some of the exhibits that we can get close and not quite touch, but almost.
Well, thank you so much for sharing those memories. I am 100% with you. We cannot wait until we can all connect back at Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival in Hampton, hopefully next year. And Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
And I want to say thank you on behalf of CPQG. Once again, we're delighted to exhibit with you, as well as our local SACWA group, which is also exhibiting with you. But we thank you because we know that the Mancuso staff have had to work even harder than usual to organize a virtual show. And it's going to be fantastic. And we're really looking forward to the virtual festival this year.
Awesome. You're so welcome, Kathleen. And as always, the Colonial Piecemakers Quilt Guild will be welcome every year, so to come. Great. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We apologize for those technical difficulties, but I hope that you enjoyed my talk with Kathleen Decker and got a chance, and I hope you get a chance to see the Guild's quilts at the festival. Again, that is at our quilt festival website. That is www.onlinequiltfestival.com. Coming up next is a presentation with AccuQuilt and Ask Adele, hosted by my colleague, Michael Merchanti. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.